Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is urging Democrats to address immigration when they take control of the House next year. Sanders, who was just reelected as a political independent, is pushing a bold agenda that includes protecting DACA recipients and comprehensive immigration reform. He also wants a $15 minimum wage, new laws to address climate change, and a $1 trillion infrastructure plan. The former presidential candidate spells it out in his new book, Where We Go From Here, 2 years in the Resistance. Senator Sanders, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Want to talk to you about some of the news of the day. Tear gas being fired at some of these migrants trying to cross the border, including women and children seen choking from the tear gas. Should border agents be able to use tear gas in self-defense?
Well, I think you got a really tragic situation, and you got to minimize the level of force that is being used. All of which speaks to what you just mentioned. The need for us to finally deal with immigration in a comprehensive way.
You write in your book that President Trump is on the wrong side of decency on this issue.
He's on the wrong side of history and the wrong side of decency. Right now in this country, you got some 2 million young people who were raised in this country, who know the United States as their only home, who are in the DACA program, who are scared to death of being deported. They're in the military. They're in school. They're working. That's wrong.
One's a Rhodes Scholar.
That's right.
Rhodes Scholar.
That's right. And you got 10 million people in this country, including several million who are sustaining our agriculture in this country, who are undocumented. The time is long overdue for Congress and this president to say we need comprehensive immigration reform and, in my view, a path towards citizenship.
So comprehensive immigration reform did pass the Senate a few years ago, and now the blockage, of course, was a Republican-controlled House. Now the Democrats control the House. So how do you get to yes on this?
Well, I think you will see the House raising this issue and bringing it up as soon as possible, and I think we got a chance to do something meaningful.
And what compromise would Democrats make, which they'd have to pass a Republican-controlled Senate?
I don't know that we have the time to get into all of the details, but the good news is that I think Democrats in the House are serious about comprehensive immigration reform. I think we have some Republicans in the Senate, and let's see if we can do something. It's a major issue. But, you know, there are other issues out there as well. And one of the issues that concerns me right now is that as we talk about Black Friday and people shopping, we should remember that millions of workers who are out there now, who are selling us products in department stores, are making what I consider to be starvation wages.
Yeah.
And I think we have got to finally make it clear that if you work 40 hours a week in America, you know what?
You should not be poor.
You should not be living in poverty. That means raising the minimum wage is what the American people want to do.
And you said, despite all the issues, though, Senator Sanders, you said really this country is more united than it appears. You don't believe in red state, blue states. It's so hard to feel that we are united. And most things you said, we really are united here.
Yeah, on many areas, we are united. And I think the media underplays that. For example, you do some polling. Do the American people think we should raise the minimum wage to a living wage? Yes.
Yes.
Do the American people believe that health care is a right and we should move to Medicare for all? Yes. Do the American people believe that in
gun control,
in sense, absolutely, common sense gun safety legislation? Absolutely.
Do the American people want to pay more in taxes?
If we can do away with private insurance premiums, yes. Look, let's deal with it.
They say no on that, just to be fair.
Well, but let's
because they want to pay for all the things that you're mentioning.
Well, all right. But if I told you, if you were a family of four that was independently employed or self-employed, you're paying $28,000 a year for your private health insurance. So I'd say, hey, Nora, guess what? You're going to pay $10,000 more in taxes, but not that $28,000. You know what? You say, Bernie, where do I sign up? And by the way, you want to lower the cost of prescription drugs, in which we are getting ripped off by the drug companies big time.
And that is one area where you and the president are aligned in lowering prescription drug prices and boosting infrastructure. Are these two issues that you'd be willing to work with the president on?
Absolutely. Now, the president has talked a lot about the high cost of prescription drugs. He hasn't done anything on it. We have got to we need to take on the incredible greed of this pharmaceutical industry. We just put something online last week of a young man in his late 20s who died because he couldn't afford the insulin that he needed for his diabetes. People all over this country are in that position. Meanwhile, the drug companies make outrageous profits. We got to deal with that reality.
Because some in the Democratic,
go ahead.
on that note, some in the Democratic Party disagree with that strategy. Say that there's absolutely nothing that the Democratic Party should align themselves with this president with. Is that wrong?
Of course, it's wrong. I mean, if the president wants to do the right thing on prescription drugs, and he lies all of the time, so we can be skeptical about it. But if he does, of course you want to work with him. We have an infrastructure today, and that's roads, bridges, water systems, wastewater plants that are in collapse. We can create millions of good-paying jobs rebuilding our rail system and our infrastructure. Should we do it? Should we work with him if he wants to work with us? Absolutely. There's another issue out there that just came out in a report from 13 federal agencies. And that is, while President Trump continues to think that climate change is not real or it's a hoax, what his own agencies are telling him is that if we don't get our act together, you're going to see more horrible wildfires like we saw in California. You're going to see more drought, which will impact the production of corn and soybeans. You're going to see more flooding. We have got to transform our energy system and take on the fossil fuel industry. No question about it.
In the Senate, how many Republican colleagues could you have a conversation with on the climate change issue that you think you could work on some
Well,
kind of
John, this is what I think is significant when people minimize the takeover of the House by the Democrats. It's one thing for Republicans to, on their own, come forward. It's another thing to get a bill from the House which says, you know what, we're going to put money into wind, into solar, into sustainable energy. Are you going to vote against it? Well, maybe I won't. Maybe it's not a bad idea. So I think the takeover Democrats in the House now can work with the Senate in transforming our energy system, telling the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet for our kids and our grandchildren.
Senator, a lot more we have to talk to you about. Hopefully you can come back and sit at the table with us.
Love to do it.
Including talking about 2020 perhaps for you. All right, Bernie Sanders, thank
Bernie
you.
said me no speak English right now.